Have you ever wanted to take a day trip to a small Pennsylvania town or hike through the beautiful Appalachian Mountains, but don't want to deal with the traffic, high gas prices, and windy mountain roads? The Center County Highway Revolt is a citizen-led initiative trying to save farms and forests, combat climate change, and boost small-town economies by building a rail transit network across the state. The plan calls for connections to existing Amtrak trains. Learn more at centercountyhighwayrevolt.org. There's no other elected official in Philly getting more scrutiny right now than the sheriff. Just yesterday, the Philadelphia Inquirer's editorial board called for her fellow elected Democrats to take her to task for a range of alleged mismanagement and corruption in her office that the paper has uncovered. So on today's CityCast Philly, we head to the sheriff's office on Broad Street and hear directly from Philly Sheriff Rochelle Bilal. She says she's fixed a broken office, and criticism from the Inquirer is rooted in the fact that she stopped advertising sheriff cells in the paper. That's something the top editor at the paper says is a baseless charge that only serves to cover up the failings of her office. It's Wednesday, May 28th. I'm Trinita Ree, and this is what Philly's been talking about. What is this department responsible for?
The sheriff office, because most people didn't know what it does, and you criticize something you don't even know. But the sheriff office is responsible for the courts, securing the courts, in and outside and around it. It's also responsible for transportation of prisoners from their location to the courthouse. It's also responsible for the real estate when it comes down to sheriff cells and tax lien cells. Is also responsible for the warrants that court orders that it gives. It's now been added to be responsible for evictions. And so now we develop an eviction integrity unit. And is also responsible to being engaged within the community. So those are the general all-around legal solid responsibility as the sheriff does.
So take us back in 2020 when you started, Sheriff. This office had been going through a lot of controversy even before you got here. What was it like when you got into office?
Let's say my analogy about when I got into office, mine is about a brand new car. You go and somebody gives you a brand new car. You open up the car. There's no lights. There's no engine. There's no transmission. There's only one seat in there. And so instead of running away, you got to now build that car up. You got to put lights in it. You got to put transmission in it. You got to put an engine in it. That's what I came into, absolutely nothing. Because those that left here left and basically didn't even leave a paperclip. And so I had to come in, analyze the whole office, figure out what it is it's supposed to be doing, and figure out the legal means of making sure that it does what it's supposed to do. They've been talking decades about, well, not decades, I think the last two administrations prior to me about what the sheriff office doesn't do. Nobody knew really what it did. So I had to analyze as to, by law, what are our responsibilities, what are we supposed to be doing, and how to get it to that point. So when I ran it, that's what I ran on. I ran on, one, not spending $5 million plus on advertising taking people's homes. So that's one of the things that I wanted to minimize, but make sure that we advertise because that's our legal responsibility, but make sure we're not advertising overly as far as doing it. The other thing when I came in, I wanted to make sure that internally we started being in compliance. And that means bringing everything in compliance. I mean, you have to analyze each and every department as to what it is that you needed to get it to do. And one of the things that I made sure happened was that the controller came in and did an audit. They did an audit of the office and they did an audit of the armory because we deal with protection from abuse orders. We deal with PFAs. And we needed to make sure that all that was done right. When they came in and did an audit, I came in Don't forget, I'm a 27-year veteran of the police department
And you were the first woman to serve in this
in
position.
this position. And I came in, I went into the armory, and I was amazed of how raggedy, how just not kept at all. Guns on the floor, paperwork so antiquated, where you have a log book that you're logging in, and this is 2020, where you're logging in stuff by pencil when you can computerize all of that. And so that was a major change that we needed to do right then and there. We needed to change that armory from the gross negligence of past administrations to the present 20th century type of armory.
So basically, essentially, to break it down for people, like this was protecting or like making sure that the guns were safe.
That they were safe, that they were logged in, they can be accountable for. Prior to me, you had logbooks you couldn't even read the handwritings on. And so when people talk about stolen guns or guns missing, when I came in, you couldn't really determine whether any guns was missing because you couldn't read the paperwork that they were writing on. And then back in the day, they used to give those who retired, give them their guns to go with them.
Meaning retired from the sheriff's
office, they would take their gun with them. Now, we know today that's city property. You can't do that. They got to turn all of that in, or they purchase it from the city. But that's what they did back in the day.
So how have you gotten the armory together, for example?
Technology-wise, first of all, it's revamped, and you can probably see it, maybe give you a picture of it. It's state-of-the-art. It has the beast, tags, everything goes into the system. There's nothing that comes in there or go out of there that's not accountable for. Alarm systems. You can't come in there unless you are assigned there and you have a code to get in that area. And so it's the state of the art. It's nothing like it was when I came in here.
Tell me more about your accomplishments that you're proud of.
We also started putting everything in a system, our Tyler Tech system, which all our partners can upload their information to, because we're talking about sheriff cells. We put sheriff cells online. When I came in the office, we analyzed what that process was, and therefore found out that it was biased. The auctioneer was biased. People will go to the sheriff's cell and be intimidated by groups. So certain groups of people will get buy the properties when other people didn't have opportunity. We found out that people couldn't get down to the sheriff's office because they worked. And so therefore, after analyzing that, the bid for assets came into play. It's our electronic online bidding service. And out of that, one of the things that we're proud of that does, if your property is going up for sale, you want as many people as possible to bid. So there may be excess proceeds that can go back to that homeowner or landowner that was dealing with that.
And excess proceeds, just for those who don't know, is money that is supposed to go back to the former homeowner after the property they lost to a sheriff's sale is sold. Only if it's sold at a sheriff's sale for a higher price than the total of any outstanding mortgage and taxes and utility bills.
And so just this past my first term, we've given back to homeowners or landowners $8.3 million of excess proceeds versus my predecessor. And we went through a pandemic and a civil unrest. They did 3 million. We did 8 because I put the detectives in this office to use, because the sheriff office we can get to technology, or we have programs just because you're law enforcement that we can utilize to find people for this excess proceeds. And so they can move on with their life. That's one of the things we're proud of. We're proud of the technology that we brought into this office, because when I came in 2020, I couldn't even have Zoom meetings with my staff because the back, you remember them old computers that had back? You might not remember that. They had
like
these
the
big
bubble?
old back.
Yeah, I had them in elementary school.
Okay, well, in 2020, look, one of my grandchildren has a flat screen at 5 years old. It's to come into an office of this magnitude where you got computers that had big old backs to them, and you couldn't even do Teams meeting, was a mess. So we are bringing this office into the 21st century.
Got you. But you are facing a barrage of criticisms from the Inquirer alleging that you're failing to meet those basic functions of the office. They're even alleging mismanagement of money. And it's not just the Inquirer, it's governmental watchdogs and elected officials. So how do you respond to, the criticisms that you have been facing?
First of all of those that are trying to criticize this office never sat down and had a conversation with me here. Never came in and said, "What are you doing here? What are the things that you're facing?" And as a newly elected official, never offered to assist, to help build this organization and bring it into the 21st century. Never did none of that.
What would you like
First of
them
all,
to do?
at this point, you don't criticize something because you're getting it from one source. Your source is a media outlet that basically is mad. Because when I came in here, what I ran on was not spending $7.5 million on advertising, taking people home. So therefore, I streamlined all the advertising we was doing. And I cut that down. And the Enquirer and Daily News does not get the sheriff's cell advertisement because they didn't want to cut it down and they wanted to keep it as it was. And we wasn't doing that. So they don't get it. So that 5 point something million they used to get from here, they don't get it anymore. And so then they mad. And so the mad becomes personal. The attacks become every little thing that happens here. This is a office and it's a business. And every business have their issues. Nobody's perfect here. I'm not saying that we are. But what we're building is changing the narrative as to what this office does and how it's doing it. You take the Committee of 70.
That's a nonprofit, one of the government watchdogs I was referring to.
They sent the letter over to the council people. And in that letter, they stated that Baltimore does not have an elected sheriff. A sixth grader could have Googled that information because Baltimore just elected a sheriff in 2022. That information was wrong. They also used New York and stated that New York doesn't have an elected sheriff. Well, New York hasn't had an elected sheriff since 1946, way before I was born. And it's more than 18,000 sheriffs elected across this country. So the information you're trying to use to attack me isn't even correct. So when you're going to say something, utilize what it is that's correct and not that. So they're jumping on the bandwagon, which I push back on every time. The Enquirer does not print anything that we do here. We had a press conference here on the Armory and showed the pictures of what it was and what it is today. Did you read any of that in the Enquirer? Did you read any of the sweeps that we've been doing around the city in the Enquirer? Did you read anything about us engaging the community and educating on what the sheriff office do in the Enquirer? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so they're making this personal now. They're telling me we're not doing it. We're doing everything possible to bring this organization into the 21st century, and they don't print any of it. So we respond on our website. Any questions they ask, we respond to it. Is on our website because they don't print nothing. And if they print anything, it may be one line. So you don't really get the full picture of what we're doing here. When it comes down to PICA.
That's the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority, another watchdog group. It monitors Philly's finances for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In March, it voted unanimously to recommend abolishing the sheriff's office.
Which is not their responsibility to talk about abolishing nothing. If you read what they was formed for, it would tell you they're totally out of line. And Senator Sharice Street basically said that because his father wrote the legislation for them. They're out of line. So people are getting together to come at the sheriff off. Why? Because they think that I'm the weakest link. I'm the first female in here to run this office. And now you think you can gang up on attacking, talk about abolishing the office. This office is here for a specific purpose. And when it's dealing with real estate, it's the fiduciary, meaning we have to be fair and balanced in what we do when it comes down to sheriff's cell.
We'll have more with Sheriff Bilal after the break.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
Can we talk about the functions of the courthouse security, which has been something that has also been criticized because of the increase in incidents like assault during your term?
That's false.
Okay.
I don't know where they got that talking about incidents had increased. That's false because I get reports of incidents every day. And when they say incidents, they couldn't even tell you what they were. An incident could have been somebody outside screaming and our deputies go out there to the system. An incident could be somebody overdosing in the courthouse and our deputies assist them. An incident could have been somebody walking into the courthouse who could be homeless and start a ruckus and they could assist them. An incident could be anything. When they said incidents could increase, what are the incidents they're talking about? Because anything that goes around on the of the courthouses, we are involved in. My deputies are involved.
I think they've quoted that like judges don't feel safe, and the 2 court orders from the Administrative Governing Board that is essentially the panel of judges that kind of oversees how courts are run. They mentioned that.
And so we got 2 court orders.
Mm-hmm. One in December and March.
Prior to those court orders, we saw that our manpower was going down. And let's just say this. The whole country of law enforcement manpower is down. The police commissioner basically said he 1,200 down. It's going to take some time to get up to this. This is around the country. Why? We had a pandemic and we had a civil unrest. George Floyd happened. Tamir Rice happened. Eric Gardner happened. All of these people, all of these things happened. And law enforcement, when I came into it, wasn't sexy anymore. People didn't want to be police officers. People didn't want to be sheriffs. And the reason why all of us, all law enforcement, is engaging in community because we now have to build that trust back up with people so they see this as a career.
You said you're trying to make law enforcement seem sexy.
Sexy again, because when I came to it, sexy. When I was young, police people, some of them, at one age, I didn't like cops. But when I was a young child, police people, law enforcement, we looked up to. We looked up to firemen. Firemen had McGuff. We liked the McGuff. So we're looking at, they're saying that we saw our manpower going down. And so we started implementing on a trial basis on how we was going to make sure that we did our duties as far as courts. And we saw that it was working. I had commanders in there that when I said to them, look, we got to deploy our people different, kept telling us no, couldn't figure out how to do it. So I transferred them out of there, put new command in there, and they basically came up with all the plans to redeploy our officers so that we can make sure that we cover the main places in the different courthouses.
So are you saying today that Philadelphia courts are safe?
Philadelphia courts are safe. They were safe then. I think it was unfair in reference to the court orders because we were doing that. But they wanted to know specifically what we were doing, and we basically gave them the plan specifically of what we were doing. And right now, they're satisfied with it. And we're keeping an uptick on how we are recruiting. And that's another thing in here.
I saw one of your commercials on TV. I was watching the morning news. So you have commercials and...
When I came in here, I had a budget that said I had 420.
420 what?
I had to hire... budget up for 420 officers. When I said, okay. When I went to go hire them, they said, oh, you ain't got no money in the budget. This is from a previous administration. I'm like, wait a minute. My budget says I can hire up to 420, but when I go to hire, you're telling me I can't hire.
Why?
Then that's what I said. Why? Well, it ain't in the budget. We got to put a transfer ordinance for you to put the money in. So I didn't understand that. Because if you say I got it, when I go to use it and it's not there, that was the issue. The other thing was the issue is, one, they only advertised, and I'm not talking about on TV, radio, or none of that, just for the city to put it up on their website once a year for the sheriffs.
That there's jobs
That's
open.
once a year. Once a year. Now, how can you maintain your level of officers if they only hear about an opening once a year and it only stays open for 6 weeks?
And from what I heard during your budget hearings, that the training program takes 19 weeks.
It takes 19 weeks. And here's the other thing that we are finding out. It takes 19 weeks and it's not here. You have to go up to State College. That means you had to spend 5 days a week up at State College and come home Friday and got to be back up there Sunday night for 19 weeks. How many families can leave their family to go stay somewhere for 19 weeks? That became a hurdle. And then when we did get people to hire, we can't send them up there right then because they didn't have slots. So we started retraining them here before they can plug them into the slots that may be open. They only did training twice a year up there. So our hiring is a lot more difficult than anybody else's hiring because Philly police can go to the academy and go home at night. Ours didn't. The correctional guards can go to their academy and go home at night. Ours don't. And so our unique way of getting our deputies trained and certified is a lot more difficult than anybody else.
So basically, you're short staffed. How many deputy sheriffs do you currently have?
The number is, I think, 261 right now.
How many do you need to fulfill those empty slots?
We had a company come and do a realistic assessment on what we do and what our needs were. If we wanted to fill every courtroom and the needs of all of that, what we do here, we need 610 deputies to do that with. We're 261. And right now, my budget only allows us to have a vacancy of 35. I'm telling you, this is not me coming in here and creating this. This has been going on for decades. And now I'm here and our deputies, don't forget people are retiring too. So it doesn't matter how many you get, you got to look at the people that are leaving at the same time. So when it comes down to everybody pounding on the sheriff's office, what I said from the beginning, they don't know what the sheriff's office does, and they don't know what we're up against coming in here. We came in here to a car that didn't have nothing.
So let me just make sure I understand it right. If there's 240, 260 current deputies, and you need like 600, what
to be fully staffed.
What responsibilities or functions are not happening or missing?
Nothing is not happening or missing. We are handling our core responsibilities. We are deploying our people differently, just so that in order to do that, you got to pay overtime because now people are being paid overtime because they're working over on different units, different facilities. We are doing the best that we can with our numbers. We're redeploying them differently. We had a conversation with the prisons, and so we're bringing people in earlier. And so therefore, that's how we're redeploying all our people. There's nothing that is urgently core, like there will be a problem that is not being covered. We just redeploy them differently. And to cut that overtime down, we need to hire people so that people can go back to their regular time schedule and do their job and not be overtime out.
Or stretched thin.
Because that's where we at. And we didn't get here because I walked in the door. This has been happening way before I got here. This advertising once a year, saying you got money in the budget and it's not there. not advertising at all, not having money in their budget to advertise on TV, radio, to be basically, and then everything that happened from the time that I walked in the door, from a pandemic to civil unrest, all of that played into not just me, but law enforcement across the country. So I'm trying to see, how come everybody got a pass but us?
So earlier this month, you, like I mentioned before, you asked City Council for a $20 million increase in your current budget. Is that more than 50% of what you're getting now?
My budget is 35 million right now.
Okay.
20 million includes not only hiring, it includes the continuation of upgrade technology. It includes getting our own academy here so that people that apply here, families can now go to training and go home. It implies that we need to come out of this building and have our own building where the sheriff's headquarters can be, because we're here in Center City. People can't park. We're now, in reference to eviction, doing close to 200 a week. 200.
Evictions.
Yes. And so my deputies, and still doing all the other things that they were doing as far as real estate mortgage foreclosures, tagging those different properties, and the liens that go on different properties, still doing that. Now do close to 200. We had to order cars. Where are cars going to park at in Citizen? We have no place to park. Just this week alone, my deputies is parked outside to come in here to get their work done and got tickets. Where do we park at? Here, right here in this building. We need to be out of here. We need to be in a building where, one, our buses and vans, don't forget we got buses and vans that transport prisoners all the time. And when I walked in the door, there was eviction notice up at the water department parking lot saying they want our buses and vans off that parking lot because the parking lot is falling apart. That was eviction notice. We want y'all gone. And my deputies that are working up there, to me, is hurtful because the trailers that they are in is deployable. They got to go to a porta potty to go to the bathroom because of where they are up there. I need my vans, buses, and we need a place where all our stuff can be together and our offices can be maintained and people can come here without getting a car ticket and towed just because they're doing business at the sheriff's office. So when people talk about what this need to be abolished, nobody has talked about how do you help the sheriff's office get in compliance? How do you help make sure they are efficient, make sure that they can hire people, make sure that nobody offered any help. When I came in here, there was one person that basically offered some insight on politics. Because remember, I'm not a politician. I wasn't mentored by anybody in city council. I didn't have a mentor that was a political person at all. I had to come in here, and as a law enforcement professional, because I was 27 years in the police department, come in here and analyze and bring people in here that can find out what this office does, and then start adjusting and bringing it into compliance. Because my predecessor walked out of here and didn't even leave a paperclip. So when everybody comes on the sheriff's office being abolished, ask them this. Do you really know what the sheriff's office does? Did you talk to the sheriff, sit down with her, and find out what it is that she needed in order to bring this office up in compliance? None of them.
Do you feel like you have allies in the city?
Yes, I do. Because they know me. I've lived here most of my life. And I've been an activist as in support of the community and things that we need to get done in this city. I've been the president of the Guardian Civic League, which is the Black civic organization, making sure that officers are treated fairly, especially the ones that look like me. And so I've been around this city. I'm not new to this city. And people know me personally. I care about the city. I care about the people in this city. And I'm not here for a paycheck because I had a pension. So when I take on a responsibility, my job is to do the best that I can. And the best that I can was to get this organization up to par and bring it into the 21st century and make sure it goes into compliance because it wasn't prior to.
So do you feel like people hear what you're requesting and what you're saying?
People are hearing what I'm requesting and what I'm saying because I got reelected. They know me. I'm out in the community. They can see, feel, and touch me. And I'm no phony here. I'm straight shooter on what's going on and how we need to get there. I'm not that. And they hear it. And that's what we're doing in the sheriff's office, just moving the organization forward. And the one thing that when I leave here is every department has a brochure on what their function is, how they operate, and what their needs are. Because I didn't come into that.
This came out a few weeks ago. A civilian sheriff's employee fired a gun inside the office. What happened and how is that being investigated?
Well, it was investigated by the police department because it was a person that works for us, had a license to carry, brought a gun in, which they shouldn't have had. That's being investigated by our internal affairs. And the police department ruled it as an accidental shooting.
Was it a civilian employee?
It was a civilian employee. It's not a sworn personnel. And it was an accidental shooting. And we're investigating that because we got rules and regulations in reference to that. And we will deal with that accordingly.
This is your second term?
That's correct.
Do you want to stay in this position? Do you want to continue for like another term?
What I need to do is finish up the job that I started. If you're talking about this office has been this way 40 years, I only had 4 for my first term. And I know they expect women to get over here and wave magic wand and everything's supposed to just pop up okay. That's ridiculous. Step by step, putting things in place and in order. And I just want to finish doing what I'm doing. So the next woman that takes this position, because I'm training the next woman, that they won't have to deal with what I've dealt with coming into this office.
You made the analogy of waving a magic wand, but what would this office look like in 2027, 2028?
Move it forward. Hopefully we have our own training academy. People can be trained here. We will move out of here and have a place where people can come to, not get their cars towed. My buses and vans can move out without being in deplorable conditions, and everything will be up to date. And we will have a brochure about everything that goes on in here. So the next person, when they come in, they won't walk into what I walked into, which was a car with nothing.
Any last words that you want to mention that we didn't get to?
First of all, thank y'all for coming out, because you get the other side of what's going on here in the sheriff's office. You get the actual what I walked into and what I'm basically changing this office to come into compliance. Our term report shows what we've been doing. Even though we've been attacked immensely, we have not taken off the focus on bringing this organization into compliance and making it better going forward. It's not going to be the existence of 40 years. It's going to be the existence of 2020 moving forward. That's what we're doing. And thank y'all for at least hearing the other side of this and not just depending on one media outlet that has an agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. After our interview with the sheriff, we reached out to the Inquirer for a comment about her allegations that the newspaper has an axe to grind after she eliminated sheriff sale ads in the papers, and that's why there have been so many articles uncovering mismanagement and corruption in her office. Gabrielle Escobar, editor and senior vice president of the Philadelphia Inquirer, wrote in an email, quote, "Editorial decisions, including coverage of the sheriff, are not included or directed by the business operations of the Inquirer. The sheriff's baseless charge is a convenient way to cover the many failings of her office. As for the sheriff's claims that the Inquirer's reporting was false when it found an increase in security incidents like assaults at courthouses, the sheriff's office told us to submit a public records request for that information to get the real data, which we did on May 15th. We have not received the information just yet. We also got a comment from the nonprofit Committee of 70, which said in a statement that Philadelphia's independently elected sheriff is not just ineffective, it's a public safety risk. The office has been broken for decades and continuously fails in its most fundamental duties. The Committee of 70 said the sheriff hasn't properly kept courtrooms safe and has also failed to relinquish firearms for most perpetrators of domestic abuse who have protection from abuse orders against them. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know what you think of this politics episode. Tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.